Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Los Angeles Rams Insider Podcast. I'm your host and beat writer, Brock Vieira. You can check out all of our work at www.si.com /NFL /Rams /on SI, where we drop double digit pieces of content every single day pertaining to the Rams, what moves they're making in the offseason, how that affects the team, the division, what's happening in the division that's affecting them, so on and so forth. Of course, you can also check us out it's YouTube, and then we also have our various social media links at Rams on SI. And this is going to be part one in a series of videos that we're doing with a very special person, a person I consider to be a close personal friend of mine. We met last year at Rams training camp at Loyola Marymount University. Since then, obviously, both he and I are journalists. We go in a little bit of a different direction, of course. I go with the beat. I'm a beat writer, so I have to take the unbiased view of the team. And then, of course, my good friend Pierce DeLuna, also known as First and Tuna. Check out his work. He gets to provide a little bit of that fan perspective. So that's why I'm bringing him on today. We're going to be talking about a variety of Rams topics on this episode and the next series of episodes that are coming out, giving, of course, our opinions and just evaluating everything that's happened so far, of course, with the Rams and inside the NFL. For this episode, we're going to be talking about the major moves the Rams have made in free agency. Those, of course, include the over $200 million the franchise has spent to revamp their secondary. Of course, bringing back Cam Curl and then adding Super Bowl winners Jalen Watson and Trent McDuffie from the Kansas City Chiefs. So, without further ado, here is Mr. First and Tuna. Let's talk about it. How are you doing, my friend?
Man, it's Friday night, and I get to talk about football with Brock Vieira, dude. I can't ask for anything better. What's up, man? Good to see you.
Good to see you too. And it's great times in Los Angeles if you are a Rams fan, no doubt about it, which I know you're going to dive into. But let's get your first opinions, man. Bringing back Cam Curl, Jalen Watson, trading for Trent McDuffie, making him the highest paid cornerback in the NFL. What do you think?
I think you said it best. To encapsulate all of them, it is a great time to be a Rams fan. It's a great time to be a sports fan in LA. But if you're a Rams fan, like you had issues last year, guess what? McVay fixed them. You got a tandem of quarterbacks that can win you a Super Bowl, have won Super Bowls, and they come from a great system with Spags. I think you can't ask for anything better. Like this is head on the nail. Great time to be a Rams fan. Like this is so fun. Like the Rams are winning the offseason. This is awesome.
Of course. And there's always that notion of there's a lot of teams that win the offseason, but they aren't able to put it together in the regular season. The Rams, fortunately for, of course, the fans, do not have that same type of narrative about them, being that within the last, 9 seasons that Sean McVay has been head coach, they've had 8 winning seasons and 7 playoff appearances, 2 NFC titles, and Super Bowl win. So the framework is there for these guys to be successful from the jump. When I look at these moves, to me, it tells me that we're going to see a different version of Chris Shula next season. Last season, I think the general narrative about him was that he wasn't aggressive enough. His defense got picked apart late in the season. And you did have to wonder when it came down to X's and O's, is this the guy that can truly be that difference maker for the Rams? I think when you bring in a guy, with bringing 2 players like McDuffie and Watson, that allows you to naturally be more aggressive with how you blitz because they come from, as you mentioned, Spag's system. And we all know Steve Spagnuolo loves to dial up pressure, especially in critical moments. But that's my perspective. What is yours, and how do you think Watson McDuffie will impact the team in the short term and then, of course, in the long term?
Again, I almost can't say it better than you do. Like you're so attached to the team, you get to see the ins and outs behind the scenes, and even more so than just a scheme fit. They're such a culture fit too. They're bringing over a wealth of knowledge of not just, hey, this is how you win games. This is how you're supposed to act in January and when you get to that big game in February. But they're going to take pieces from their old system. So with Shula, he kind of had his one hand tied behind his back. You get the injuries. You kind of piecemeal that cornerback where they really took a gamble on some guys and ultimately didn't pan out. And it really left the pass rush. It really exposed the linebacker unit, left the safeties unit kind of out to dry a little bit. So now you bring in guys who can press, who can play bump and run, who can play aggressive. So that way Shula, hopefully he's got a little bit of his grandfather's blood in him when it comes to football and aggressiveness that, we're going to start seeing exotic blitzes. You're starting to see more man coverage. more confused quarterbacks on the other side of the ball, that you want veterans to look like rookies making mistakes out there. And I think those guys can do it better than anybody. And I'm really hoping it unlocks something special with Chris Shula. And hopefully, for good reasons, Shula is gone by 2027 because he's got an easy head coaching job somewhere else because of the job that he's hopefully going to do this season.
I couldn't agree with you anymore on that. And I look back at that 2024 season, more importantly, the second half of that season, after that Minnesota Vikings win on Thursday night, where it really felt that Shula started to get his feet under him. Of course, in that game, the Vikings went up early 14-0, but Shula was able to hold the Vikings off for the rest of that game. Rams were able to keep pace and then eventually overtake them, launching that second half of the season comeback in order to make the playoffs. And I just remember him blitzing like crazy. Cornerbacks, nickelbacks, linebackers, dimebackers, I think a couple safeties here and there. And when you have guys like Cam Kitchens and Jalen Tech McCullough who are able to get closer to that line of scrimmage, who are very aggressive by nature players, you're allowing them to, dare I say, not think so much and just react. Now, these guys are great players. These guys are smart, intelligent dudes who are true tacticians. But the more you have to think, the less you have time to do. And when that happens, I think that's why we've seen a lot of these areas of the secondary be exposed, because they're so worried about having to play, 7 in coverage or 6 in coverage, not being able to mix up their looks, and them knowing, hey, we've already shown this look how many times already. They know what's coming. What can we do on the field to try and mitigate, what's happening? Bringing in McDuffie and Watson helps solve a lot of those problems. What I really appreciate about the Rams this year, I want to get your take on this, is that not only did they do a good job at identifying what the positional needs were, but the skill set needs as well. When you look back to last season, when Ahkello Witherspoon went out in that second game, there was a clear sign that the Rams lacked the type of corner that could go out and defend the bigger-bodied wide receiver. A.J. Brown to be more specific. Now you're looking at a guy like Jalen Watson, I think 6'2". He can, frame up and handle those guys, especially in a division that just welcomed Mike Evans to the 49ers. I would love to hear your thoughts on the skill sets that have been brought into the secondary, and then how you think those are going to help the Rams overcome the various problems that these offenses in the NFC West are presenting.
Oh, brilliant. It's the scheme fit, not just, hey, we want to do these things, so please be able to cover this way, A, B, and C. They don't just check the boxes. They're able to adjust on the fly. And that's kind of what I mean as the biggest pull from the Spagnuolo system. Very similar to, I equate it to a quarterback and wide receiver duo, Matthew Stafford and Puka Nacua. Yeah, sure, maybe the route called is a slant, but based on everything that they understand and be able to adjust on the fly, Puka knows, hey, if that linebacker's sitting right here, I'm going to stop in this window. And Matthew Stafford knows exactly where to put that ball. McDuffie can also do the things that you're talking about Watson can do. Yeah, he's big body. He'll take on the A.J. Brown. I do think back to Emmanuel Forbes kind of getting bullied around a little bit by Forbes in that Eagles game. McDuffie, you watch him. You compare his film to other guys his size who aren't at his level. They're kind of like, you watch these smaller corners hover around A.J. Brown and routes and how physical he is, or like a fly, bugging a big animal. McDuffie, he's in their grill. He's not getting pushed around. When a big receiver is trying to break at 10 yards and push him out the way, he's pushing back. He's moving the receiver instead of him being moved. Those little timing, those little attention to detail moments is something that McDuffie brings, like way more than just the physical tools. It's those little nuances like that I think exactly what you're talking about, the skill set needed. And then when you just need a big dude that, like, hey, it's an unbalanced formation. Watson, come down to the edge, cover a tight end, and you're not giving up ground because Watson's so big. That gives Shula so many chess pieces. Like, now, you thought last year they can mix and match. They're going to mix and match guys all over the place, and then that helps the pass rush. The pass rush we love, where, hey, they can get there with 3 or 4 guys. It's like, that's so hard. What if we brought 5? What if you bring 6? And then these guys can cover everything and cover 0. Now you're really going to see what Shula can hopefully do. Now you just, at that point, you're just hoping everybody stays healthy through the whole season.
Absolutely. And obviously with modern NFL defenses, we're seeing a lot more positionless players because of the various innovations we've seen on offense. You need versatile defenders to be able to do a variety of tasks in order to, properly attack what the opposition can do, especially now that the Shanahan and McVay offenses have populated the NFL as much as they have. You have their versions, then you have counterculture offenses built to attack different needs. So you need to have a secondary, just an overall defense that's able to operate under various conditions. The one question that I have is this: when you look at the math, right? How are teams going to be able to handle that? I see this move, obviously the Rams being very aggressive, but as you mentioned, when they rush 4 or if they rush 5, there's a good chance, considering the talent on that defensive line, Jared Verse, Byron Young, Brian Fisk, Kobe Turner, so on and so forth. Are you going to be comfortable as an offense allowing a one-on-one matchup across the offensive line? If you're not, and you want to keep a tight end or a running back in for protection, now you're looking at possibly 6-man protection plus the quarterbacks. That's 7 players. So you're only going to have 4 eligible receivers. And if the Rams are rushing 5 in order to create that matchup, now you're talking about the Rams having 6 possible defensive backs out there in coverage, and multiple of them being all-pro or all-pro caliber players. My question for you is this: how do you think the offensive minds in the division, being that all 3 teams run a version of the Shanahan offense, Kyle Shanahan with the 49ers, Michael LaFleur, of course, former Shanahan and McVay assistant in Arizona, and the Seattle Seahawks offensive coordinator comes from that tree as well. How are they going to deal with the math that Shula is going to present out there?
Ooh, that's a great question. And that's something that you always, as a Rams fan, you assume McVay is going to have that answer as, quote unquote, boy genius, as he's always been tagged as. But we saw a little bit of it last year. The positionless, or like, how do you attack it? Okay, you changed the math and they went out to 12 personnel and then ramped it up to 13 personnel. So now the question is, who is going to, who's going to get ahead to the checkered flag first? Because now everybody is aware of 13 personnel, and like you said, trying to have these 6 DBs are all pros. Seattle's defense has got some guys out there too, despite them losing some folks. 49ers are going to field a good defense. And you're assuming Arizona is going to have a little bit of juice in the division as well, under new leadership. Now, being the first team to the checkered flag, on what's the next change? What's the next iteration? Is it doubling down into 13 personnel? Is it out leveraging them? Does McVay go back to outside zone? Does he not need an AJ Brown? Does he not need another big name receiver because we only need 1 or 2 on the field at a time? Does this play action 11 personnel come back like 2021 and their air it out offense? That is really the big question. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not sure. I'm really excited to see it, and I do hope it's McVay that has the answer and not Kyle Shanahan that has the answer first. It really is a race. It's an arms race, and it's one of my favorite things about like this division is everyone's looking for the next niche, the next thing. And your guy, somebody you have talked up a lot, and I'm gonna give you credit, Nate Shieldhouse. He's going to be a big proponent for that. His first year as full OC, I know you mentioned he was a big proponent for 13 personnel. So I'm excited. I think that's a secret weapon for the Rams in solving that equation.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And talking with Nate, you can tell that not only is the football IQ there and prevalent and just straight up evident, there is an underlying deep passion that he has for this game that I think is going to allow him to be part of that evolution. But as we all know, this is a copycat league. Mike LaFleur said so himself. So when I look at the other side of the question, which is how are these offenses going to adjust to what the Rams present, I do wonder if we're going to go back to a time in which there were more bigger bodies on the field. I'm not just talking about multiple tight end formations. I'm talking about possibly teams not only investing more into their rushing attack, but also putting potentially 6 offensive linemen on the field. And if they look at the math and say, hey, no matter what, we are going to be on the back end of whatever the Rams present, right? Because as I mentioned, the Rams are rushing 5 and they're dropping 6. That team's like, okay, well, how about you drop nothing because we're coming right at you? I do wonder if the Rams are built to handle that type of adjustment, considering we've seen all of this investment into the secondary and virtually little to none into the off-ball linebacker group right now. Obviously, they did just sign, I can't remember, Stannard. The other
Stewart.
one,
Stewart, yeah.
Thank you. Last name pronunciations for me are just it's my
It's okay.
Right. So right now they have 4 on the roster with Sean Dolak, Omar Speights, and Nate Latman. I'm gonna count 5 because I think Troy Reader is gonna be signed at some point.
I said the same thing. I said the same thing.
So I mean, we can just count them as 5 already. But will the Rams be able to match up on that? Because their Achilles heel on defense last year was their inability to defend the pass when the opposition presented run looks. Right. That's exactly what won the Seattle Seahawks the NFC Championship game. Was, hey, we're gonna look like we're gonna run, and then we're going to run, and then we're gonna build an entire play action offense based off that, and try to have fun defending it. And they couldn't, not in any means of what you would say successfully. So I think that's one of the lingering questions that has to be waiting to be answered. To wrap up this video, I want to ask you 2 questions because they're kind of related. One is, as I mentioned, the Rams have invested over $200 million into this unit, which means that the 2023 class, this is their final year on their rookie deals. They'll all have to get extended for 2027. How is this going to affect the Rams' ability to extend that class with guys like Byron Young, Kobe Turner, Puka Nacua, so many more, and plus all their impending free agents because they have a lot too, guys like Stafford, Devontae Adams, Kevin Dotson, just to name a few. And then my second part of this question is, obviously, we've seen the Rams bring in Watson and McDuffie. L'Jarius Sneed just got released from the Tennessee Titans, comes from that Kansas City defense. Do you think there's any possibility, considering all the money they're blowing already, they go out and they get Sneed to be part of that 3-man rotation and leave Forbes out, or just grab him just to grab him? What are your general thoughts?
Man, great question. That first part, I think I just drew a blank. You're going to have to edit this part out.
Oh no, it's just full going, so you can think about.
It's all good.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay. I think with the addition of these free agents, I think with the money spent, and I think how last season ended, I think the pressure is now on that 2023 class for this season. I don't want to say it's like a make or break year for them. It is kind of like you're going to really have to earn it. There's some guys that are exempt from that, like Kobe Turner. I think he's done enough to warrant, like, he should be a priority to re-sign, I think. Puka Nacua, it's almost a given. What that number is, I think that's really going to be dependent on how he approaches the start of this season. But I think the pressure's on them because they didn't get it done. The goal was Super Bowl. It wasn't, hey, let's be really good and develop guys and just have fun. No, the ultimate goal was a Super Bowl, and Sean McVay was pissed for 3 weeks after they didn't get it done. So I think for guys like Byron Young, Kobe Turner, whoever else you want to throw in there on that 2023 draft class, Warren McClendon as well, I think the pressure's on them to show, okay, can you now get it done? How are you going to approach this season following a heartbreak like that? Because we had to bring in reinforcements. We had to bring in all pros. We had to bring in guys who have got it done elsewhere to show you how to get it done. Because you were given the reins and you were saying, hey, here's the young defense. You're the young Bucks. Here, Jared Verse. Here, Byron Young. Go be the guys and make it happen. And you didn't get it done. It wasn't just on the field part of not getting it done. It was the mindset approach to it. You know, Jared Verse and Kobe Turner talked about it a bunch live about, hey, our mindset was we had it in the bag and we didn't have a response when we got punched in the mouth. That's a problem. I hate that they even said it out loud, but at least you're owning it. Okay, now this is your contract year. Someone like, I don't want to throw him under the bus, but a Byron Young, what is he? Is he a franchise edge rusher developing into that? Or is he just a +1 to someone like a Jared Verse, to Micah Parsons? Like, is he a Batman or a Robin? I think the pressure's on him now to get it done. Otherwise, the Rams are showing we have no problem reminding you that we will get help outside elsewhere. It's we then me, not, Byron Young, get your sacks and then we'll pay you. And then it's the team. I think that's a big reminder. And then now the second part, yeah, why not? If you got the cash for it, if you can get Snead on a 1-year deal because he had a big contract, they just released him to save some cap because he wasn't going to fit the system and he was going to make a lot of damn money. Does he take a small discount to play with his boys, show he's an all-pro and get a bigger contract elsewhere? If that's the case, and if they think he can fit and rotate in and out at that perimeter position, dude, hell yeah. Like, why not? Double down, triple down. Go get it done. Become the Los Angeles Chiefs if you have to.
Absolutely. Well, I just got a couple more notes to wrap up this episode before we send y'all goodbye. First off, of course, when it comes to Byron Young, he was the sacks leader for the Rams last year. Had a phenomenal start to the season. But I think the question for him, and I've had multiple opportunities to speak with him. I mean, he's a great player, Pro Bowler, culture fit, everything you want. But when it comes to his price tag, you're looking at least $100 million because that's what Odafe Owe, I hope I pronounced his name correctly, got from the Washington Commanders. And to be quite frank, Young has outproduced him by every metric possible. So and he got $100 million. So Young will probably exceed that. When it comes to him, you do wonder when it comes to that second half of the season, like what was going on, especially in the playoffs. How bad is his knee? Even though he played every game on it, he would have to take rest days and things of that nature. And how is that going to affect talks? So when it comes to the big stars in the class of 2023, I agree with you that Young's contract is probably the most questionable compared to others, especially as I think, in my opinion, when it comes to that entire class, Nakua, Turner, Ethan Evans, and McClendon, I think, are the highest likely to get extended. When it comes to this new secondary, my player that I'm picking to be the most beneficial from these moves is Braden Fisk, the 2024 NFL rookie sack leader. Did not have the same type of success coming into the season this year. He was like moved around a little bit, and he had an oblique issue, and there's a whole bunch of things that did not go his way. And he was putting pressure on the quarterback, but I don't think he had the time to truly get home. I think that McDuffie and Watson and Pearl and all those guys are going to provide him the necessary second more needed for his sack total to go up. And the last thing I want to mention before we get y'all out of here is, of course, as always, when it comes to the Rams and their mindset, we've spoke very highly about them, right? Mature team. These guys, there's never going to be an enemy on the sideline. Stats are for losers. You can say everything you want. But when you hear someone like Jared Verse, right, and everyone talk about it, when they're thinking they're going to walk into Seattle and steamroll them, when they're thinking that a Seattle team playing in front of their home crowd, who we all know is legendarily loud, right, and who is extremely passionate, and you think that you're going to come in and you're just going to make them quit, I promise you not in 10 million years, even if that Seahawks team was down by 30 with 3 seconds left, were they going to quit.
Yep.
I think that it did show a lack of maturity. I think that it showed that this team wasn't ready to be champions. I think it clearly demonstrated the Seahawks were the superior side in all facets of the operation. And I agree with you. And I think Sean McVay is now he's fine. But when you hear that as a head coach, you start questioning your entire operation because what in the world allowed one of your, not even one, but because Verse said multiple members. Basically, he said the entire group outside the linebackers, from my understanding of what he said, was like, oh, yeah, we're going to go do this. We're going to go win this. Despite not only everything I just said, but the fact that last time you were in Seattle, you lost. And last time you were in Seattle, they scored 37 points, right? And then that whole second half of the season, there was always some type of failure, especially in the playoffs, even though they were able to win the first 2 games. You do have to wonder, was McDuffie and Watson and the amount that they get paid, was that just for performance? Or was that just to be like, hey, I'm a 2-time Super Bowl champion. You haven't won a single thing. This is how we're going to go do it. I do wonder at that point, did the Rams overpay just to have that mental maturity on the roster? And if they did, in my opinion, money well spent. Well, for this episode, this has been Brock Vieira, good friend Pierce, First and Tuna. Check him out on social media. He's going to be with us for a series of these episodes, so stay tuned, and we'll catch y'all next time. Take care.